teised noored siin kauges külmas, teisi näinud pole veel.
Welcome to Estonia, a nation of only 1.3 million people, but one that boasts beautiful cities and vibrant neighborhoods. Most people are familiar with the rapid pace of urbanization that's happening throughout the world, but in Estonia, as a former Soviet republic, this process is much more complex.
After World War II, there was little economic incentive for Estonians to migrate to the nation's urban areas, unless you were well connected with the Estonian Communist Party. Furthermore, the Soviet government sent thousands of people to remote parts of the country to work in mining and industry. When the Soviet Union collapsed, metropolitan growth resumed at a fairly rapid pace as people moved into formerly forgotten neighborhoods.
Here we are in Soup Town, or Supulin, a neighborhood in Tartu, Estonia's second largest city. After the fall of the Soviet Union, Supulin was one of the worst slums in a nation with soaring poverty and violence. But as of today, it's one of the fastest gentrifying neighborhoods in the entirety of Estonia, with property values that rival those of Tallinn or even Old Town Tartu.
Although Supulin was once attractive for artists, vagabonds, drunks, and students because of its cheap rent and ample space for subsistence gardening, the late 90s brought a complete shift in the neighborhood's fortunes. Unlike some other neighborhoods of Tartu, Supulin's pre-war architecture is still very much intact. Combined with its close proximity to the center of the city and its reputation as a fun-loving, creative neighborhood, Supulin is quickly becoming the most sought-after residential community in Tartu. Local landscape architect Marty Yab attributes its revitalization to its rich architectural heritage and its effective urban planning, which dates back over 200 years. The increase in price per square foot has risen so rapidly that the city of Tartu has begun to avoid building infrastructure in the neighborhood in an effort to stagnate property values. But this phenomena is not unique to Tartu.
Here we are at the Creative City in Tallinn's Kalamaya neighborhood. Kalamaya was a former industrial neighborhood that sits adjacent to a rail yard. This is a great example of private investment in conjunction with the city that has created this vibrant public space. Kalamaya in general has rapidly gentrified in the last 10 years with the renovation of the neighborhood's beautiful wooden housing stock, as well as repurposing of many of its former industrial spaces.
Unfortunately, there is another side to this urban revitalization. Industrial towns throughout Estonia have really suffered as major cities revitalize. Sillamäe, which had been a small resort town prior to 1900, became an important mining city during the 20th century. Thousands of Estonians were relocated to Sillamäe in order to work in the mines, first mining oil shale and then uranium oxide. When Estonia regained its independence, industry in Sillamäe declined precipitously, and unemployment reached as high as 18%. The grand boulevards of the square now sit mostly empty, as well as entire blocks of apartment buildings.
So we finally made it to Vivikona, which was once a thriving industrial mining and lumber town on the northern coast of Estonia. There used to be thousands of workers and families living here, and now the most recent census put the number of inhabitants at around 99. So the situation is pretty bleak here, and there's just hundreds and hundreds of abandoned housing units, as we can see here.
Vivikona may be an extreme example, but there are towns like these across Estonia. Currently, over half of the nation's GDP is produced in Tallinn. Nationwide, the unemployment level is above the European Union average, and much of it is concentrated in these small, rural, industrial towns. Ultimately, if Estonia wants to have sustainable economic growth, it must figure out how to distribute the gains equitably across geographic boundaries. Estonia was one of only 4 countries in the EU to see income inequality grow each year since 2010. If this trend continues, there will be a nation divided between people living in the wealthy cities of an independent Estonia and those continuing to toil in the failed experiment of Soviet communism.